Are you like me? Do you have way too much fabric than you could ever possibly use up in a lifetime? Is your stash outgrowing your space? Well, today I'm going to give you tips on how to break open that stash. It's stash busting time with Angela Davis. I'm the 4am quilter. Stay tuned as I give you some tips on how to break it open and make some quilts. Okay, so tip number 1, go to your biggest pile and pull out the fabric on the bottom. And see what you come up with. Now, here's the fabric that I pulled for this one. I pulled the plaid first, and that's how much I have left. I've got a few scraps on the table. But then I also pulled this peachy fleshy color. And I knew that would complement it well. And then from there, I looked at this plaid and I said, okay, do I have any florals that might work? And then I went to another bin and I found this one. Now this one, I still have probably yard and a half of this. So ask yourself, from the one fabric, what colors can I pull from it to complement it? Can I do a tone on tone? Can I do a solid? Can I do a floral? Can I pull another floral? This one right here was literally a remnant. I would say it was maybe a smidge less than a yard. I threw that in there. I have a few scraps left on the table. Part of a sheet, part of a solid scrap. I threw the yellow in because I felt like I needed something else. So I just popped that in there. You'll notice there's a pink in here. I do have a little pink right over here. This little tiny patch. And I'm going to put a little tiny patch in here because I have a space that's open. When I was working this quilt, I was doing it in sections. And I ended up with a little space down here. So I'm going to take some of the pink and I'm going to just applique it right on top. So number 1, pull a fabric from the bottom and look at the colors in it and pull other fabrics, at least 2 that will complement it. The other tip is, if you use bins at all, dump the bin out. Like, go to the bottom and pull that fabric that you've had, and then ask yourself, well, how long have I had this? You know, I know I've had this for at least 2 years. This one, I don't know how long I've had. It's a remnant. So maybe it was from something else. Maybe I got it in a grab bag. I don't honestly remember. Number 2, dump the bin out. Grab that big piece of fabric that you've been holding on to and say to yourself, well, how long have I had this? Can I work with it? Tip number 3, look at your fabric and say to yourself, was I saving this for something special? Was I saving it for a future grandchild? Was I saving it for a future wedding in the family? Have I used it in the last 5 to 6 years? No. I guarantee you, if you hold on to it and in the next couple of years, your child gets married, your granddaughter gets married, there's a new baby in the family, you're going to go out and buy new fabric. You're not going to go to your stash. Pull that fabric out and say to yourself, maybe I was holding it for something special, but now that reason's gone. Cut into it. Because I know myself, if down the road one of my children get married, I'm not going to go to my stash. I want to buy new fabric, you know? So don't be afraid to cut into that what you thought was going to be special fabric. Number 4, put this isn't stitched yet. This isn't stitched yet. Before I take this off the wall and show you my idea for tip number 4, I want to talk about this patchwork quilt. Like I said, I stash busted. I pulled this one out, then this one, then this one, and then I started pulling other ones. My idea behind this particular pattern was that there is no pattern. I made this one in honor of all the patchwork quilts that came before us that were left over from making the drapes in the kitchen, or left over from making the blouse, or left over from making your husband or your child's flannel shirt, or your daughter's skirt, or your pajama. I wanted this to be a patchwork in honor of all those old patchwork quilts that were just put together out of remnants, out of what was left in the sewing basket. And I think that's why I threw the pink in, and I'm going to throw pink in down here, and I'm not done with this. This is going to be a bigger quilt. This is what I've gotten done so far. But even though I've chosen not completely random patches the way an old-fashioned patchwork quilt is, there are random patches in here. I didn't start out with the yellow, I didn't start out with the green, and I didn't start out with the dark red. I started out with the plaid, the floral, this peach, and this floral. And I thought I would only do those 4, and then as I worked, I thought, well, let me throw in the red. Well, let me throw in the green. Well, let me throw in the yellow. And I had a little bit of fun with it. And I'm not done. I want to make this at least 1 row longer along the top or the bottom here. I want this to be a pretty decent quilt. And I have to sew the seam together. So make one in honor of the old patchwork quilt. So that's one idea for your stash busting. Okay, here's another idea, tip for your stash busting. Pick like prints. If you have a lot of florals, pull all your florals like this. Pull fabrics that are similar. So if you have a lot of plaids, pull your plaids together.
Cut those plaids up and put them in a quilt. Do you have a lot of paisley? Cut them up and put them in a quilt.
In this one, I pulled a bunch of different florals together, and then I offset it with a white muslin. And what I did was I made strippy sets. So I have muslin, print, floral print, muslin. And I made a bunch of these strip sets, and then I got them on the wall, and I was going to do the layout that you do for rail fence, where one is vertical, one's horizontal, one's vertical, one's horizontal. But I didn't like the way it was laying out for these colors. So I thought, what would happen if I laid them next to each other in the strip? Well, what happened was I ended up with 2 whites and then 2 prints, and then 2 whites and then 2 prints, and I didn't like that. So I thought, well, what if one horizontal block, white, floral print, white, and then put 1 floral print strip, and then do another block, white, floral, white, and then 1 floral print, and then white, floral, white, and then 1 print, and then white, floral, white, and then just alternate it across, so that in this one I started with a singular print and then my block, and then a singular print and then my block all the way down, and then in the next row I started with a full block and then 1 single print, then a full block, then 1 single print, and then I just alternated across. That is a fun way to really bring harmony to a quilt, but still use up a lot of your stash, because I pulled all of these florals, and some of these florals I may have only had 1 yard, 3/4 of a yard. Some of them I might have had 2 yards, and I thought, I'm going to cut them up and see how big I can get this to be. And I still have more florals. I can still make this bigger and add another 1 or 2 rows, or maybe even add a strip along the bottom. But I wanted to show it to you now to give you that idea of being Pull patterns together. Do you have all paisleys? Put all paisleys in a quilt. Do you have all plaids? Put all plaids in a quilt. Do you have a bunch of florals? Put the florals in a quilt. And then offset it with a solid, a white or a black or a navy blue or a tan or a gray. And then you will be really happy with what you come up with. So those are my main tips. And I can honestly say I have dipped into my stash. Now, have I really put a big dent in it? No. No. Absolutely not. But, you know, it's good. I have all summer to dip into this stash of mine. And you're going to join me. Give me ideas too, please. So, number 1, pull fabric from the bottom of your shelf. Number 2, if you have fabric in bins, flip the bin over, grab the fabric on the bottom. Number 3, pull other prints or colors that complement just one of the main print. Number 4, make a random patchwork quilt. Number 5, pull prints together that are similar in characteristics, such as all plaids, all florals, all paisleys, all geometric prints, all batiks. So pull like prints and patterns together. My other suggestions, that solid color that you have a lot of, whether it's muslin or black, pair that up with a print or some plaids. You know, pull those solid colors to give you an offset and a place to rest your eyes. So those are some of my tips for you to bust into your stash this summer and join me on my journey this summer to bust into my stash. Just having fun with it. Leave comments. I'd love to hear from you. And I love responding to your comments and hearing from you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Thanks for stopping by. Like and subscribe. My name's Angela Davis, and I'm the 4M Quilter. And remember, why sleep when you can sew?